2, 3. Peace, peace. Greetings to you all. It's your brother Naheem, BKA Lord Abba, aka Mr. Just the Facts. We are having a pre-debate discussion right now. Make sure y'all sharing this out, family. And make sure y'all hit the like button when we come in. We got Brother Ali on right now. We got Sister Cynthia. We're expecting Brother Logic. I think some of the brothers that were representing the reparationists on the panel will be on as well. So, I mean, Brother Ali, what was your take on it? You know, you hear these brothers talking about these people, ADOS, and, you know, they assume that we are a part of that, not the lineage, but the membership under the cult leaders, etc. They don't know enough history. What is your thoughts on that?
I think it's a crutch argument, and it's a go-to easy argument for them to really kind of be able to cover themselves when they really don't have any standing in the positions that. See, what's happening is all of their Pan-African positions, they can't really support them, and so they go to this. It's like a go-to crutch argument. Oh, you know what, you guys, you know, this is crazy because you guys really don't know history. Like, and the stuff that they're talking about is not even really historically rooted. It's rooted in this idea of this global African movement against white supremacy. That's what their thing is about. It ain't even about history, but they want to keep making these fake arguments and these fallacious arguments about us not knowing history. And it's not a history argument. It's an argument of ideology, whether or not we should be approaching reparations as from the perspective of freedmen first, or whether we should be approaching the issue of reparations from the United States for chattel slavery and Jim Crow from the perspective of the African diaspora. The United States needs to be responsible for the African diaspora. And because we don't agree with that, they start trying to pretend that it's a historical argument. It's stupid. Stupid.
Yo, that was so crazy, man. Like, yo, Jared Ball knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing. Your brother Chad, right, made his point in position so crystal clear, and you can tell he took his time to make sure. Jared Ball come and just start making shit up. He was like, "Well, Chad ain't say nothing like that." I'm like, "What the hell? Chad didn't say that. What are you talking about?" Yo, these people are out to lunch, and this is why we talk about Be the Power. They are a prime example of what actually birthed the Be the Power movement. These niggas are still trying to fight the power, but they don't understand the advocacy, the policy, and the politics it takes to actually get power. So you can't fight the power if you don't have no power. So they're talking about revolutionary this, that, and the third. No, that's not how it works. Y'all not like the Black Liberation Army and the brothers and sisters who broke Assata Shakur out the jail and then fled her out of the country into Cuba. That's not what y'all doing. So don't tell me y'all revolutionaries. Revolution is about bloodshed. Y'all not out here losing no blood and you're not shedding no blood. So stop trying to say you're a revolutionary. You're an armchair revolutionary. That is a total different thing. You're not out here putting it on the line. And if you are, you're not being effective because that is not what time it is. It's the time to be the power. We are practicing political, and not only practicing, but we are exercising political action. They tried to, that brother, what's his name? Ball, what's his first name?
Jared Ball.
Jared Ball.
Mm-hmm.
He is a very interesting man. That brother did so much squirming and wheeling and making shit up, and then he's very deceptive. He will create the straw man on live TV and then blame it on you.
Yes, a straw man with a false dichotomy. There were so many logical fallacies, I couldn't even count them.
But he would create them and blame them on you and said you did it. I never seen that one. I'm like, damn.
Well, that's the nature. That's the nature of this. That's the nature of the straw man argument, is to create an argument and then blame it on you and beat the hell out of it and act like he's beating your argument up. It's like, that's not me.
Right.
I didn't say that.
Right. That was, I to be honest with you, every one of them on the panel, on the Pan-African side of the panel, all their arguments were straw men. all
Yes.
of this conflated straw men actually proposing things that your position was this and it was not, especially when it came to that whole argument about this international push and being part of this whole international community when it comes to like the fight for reparations or anything. And, you know, I wanted to go back to one of the things that I believe was addressed to you, Brother Logic, from what's his name? Kalanji,
I think.
No, the other K guy,
Kamal or something like that. I think was his name.
Whatever. Anyway, the dude in the middle, the K dude in the middle, when he was talking about when asking you if you would support something considering like a policy or something about that, like in Haiti or something to that effect.
Yes.
And my whole thing was just like, okay, why are we talking about Haiti? that was one. Right. I was like, that was one. That was one. And then my other thing is like, this could be me straw manning, but I don't think so. Them brothers and Dr. Ball specifically, especially since he's been on our show, would constantly talk about policy and advocacy and even like, especially when it comes to political prisoners and letting them go, and that was being held, you know, by the United States Army and things of this nature, or the United States in this nature. And it's like, but then like you make an argument saying that, well, you know, white supremacy is not going to give us reparations, but why would you be advocating for anything if you think that white supremacy is not going to do it?
That was an excellent point.
Especially when you're talking about getting people released from either state or federal prison, the only two type of prison systems we have, and we understand that who controlled. That's why I asked him. I was like, so how does like you thinking that you involving people from Africa change the power dynamics here in America? The same people that you are telling me will never give me anything still control it. You think, see, this is how insane it is. They think that, oh, if you have African people saying the same thing, then they'll do it. How does that make
craziness?
That has happened never. That has absolutely happened never.
Tell us we need to do more studying. It's insane.
We got out of Jim Crow first. Then we lent our voice to South Africa and helped them get out of their apartment.
That's right.
They got this whole thing confused, right? Even from the Harlem Hellfighters going over and helping the Jews during World War II.
Come on, brother.
This is our hero's journey. This is our hero's story. They got this. He kept talking about this international Pan-Africanist that like where? Like that's what I really wanted to get into, right?
Well, you
can
seen,
we talk? Can we?
You seen real quick,
sorry.
Cynthia. You seen Sister Jam? Iwuyor was in the chat making her same frivolous claim. She's such a coward. She only came on here. She only came on here that one time because she wanted to take her digs at Yvette, and I let her because we didn't open that door. Yvette did, but that's what Yvette does. But she was in the chat making the same types of frivolous claims. So this thing
they're all in the same game. You know?
Yeah, basically. But I just want to say real quick too, some of the positions, you know, I listened to the brother Kalanji. I actually met him before. I was on a panel with him before in Atlanta a few years back. And, you know, his form of revolution is outdated. It is one that one would look to when they're strategizing, particularly if they're strategizing militarily and saying that didn't work. A football coach is not going to draw the same play that just got stopped 3 downs in a row. On the fourth try, if he's going to go for the fourth down, he's going to draw up something different. So when I hear a lot of what these brothers are saying, like Kalanji, it is based on old militant type babble. And that's what I'm going to call it, because it's not in line with the Black Panther Party, because the Black Panther Party were making moves here politically. And while they spoke to international issues, and they did, their focus was right here in the United States of America. So, you know, but the youth are not listening to that stuff anymore. And Pan-Africanism has been carrying the torch, but now it's time. Now it's time for the Freedmen to boom, elbow them dudes, snatch the torch out of their hands, and now we got it, and we gonna run with it, and we gonna light that big thing, but I don't even know what it's called, that they light up before the Olympics even start. So we got this.
If you look at it, you understand, during the era of not even Pan-Africanism, but Afrocentrism, all of that progression stopped. It died. The Black Panther Party for Self-Defense grew. Those was domestic politics. See, these people are practicing what my brother Josh likes to say, shoot, ready, aim politics instead of ready, aim, shoot. You understand? So the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense started as a local organization, then grew to a statewide organization. Then that thing spread nationally. Then they made their international connections. They didn't just shoot international. So they want to tell us we don't know basic government structure and operations, but they're just deflecting what they don't know. You done spend all that money and all that time in the schoolhouse and the education system, and you still don't know basic government. You can't distinguish domestic politics from international policy. Now
it's all the same. It's all the same.
It's all the same thing. What they're talking about is gumbo politics. You understand? And we don't have time to be taking bites of everything at the same time. We need to have our policies digested individually so that we can get the full prescription and the nutrition out of these policies. You go to eating up everything at the time, you ain't gonna know what nutrition needs to go to this part of the body or that part of the body. We have to understand that's all Afrocentrism has been, is confusion. You cannot do politics in the country that you live in with a foreign-centered perspective. You have to have a domestic-centered perspective. And in this case, that is an American-centered perspective. You cannot do proper American politics, foreign or national, right, with an international state of mind or an African-centered perspective. That will get you in trouble because now you're bringing in what your loyalty is. So you want to be more, see, these people will get your ass in trouble. So now you want to talk about being more loyal to a foreign nation than the nation in which you a citizen of, and now they get your ass thrown in jail.
I know that.
This is most deaf politics, right? Like you do all that talking, you get yourself in trouble, and then you beg America to take you back.
Come on, brother. Come on.
Hey, under a different name.
Yeah. A whole game. But I was trying to draw the conclusion that like our lives are basically the same. Like, what makes you a revolutionary? What makes you an anti-capitalist? What makes you anti-imperialism, right? Like, they're aligning themselves with people who actually live that lifestyle, right? Why they live this petty bourgeoisie lifestyle, why they go to work and do 9 to 5. If you was really serious about, being anti-capitalism and you felt like this country was weak and it was fall, you could go the George Jackson little brother route of trying to get Mumia Abu Jamal out. But you don't, right? You go to work and then you come home from work and then you put on your dashiki and you get on the internet and you talk real tough, right?
Hell yeah.
Even those revolutionaries who live those lives don't respect that form of Pan-Africanism, right? No. You think the Panther 21, you think Assata Shakur is sitting around remembering like those people who would like walk past her on their way to college with a whole bunch of books in their hand? Like, that's who these brothers is. Y'all know everything, but you don't know nothing, right? You can't be specific on nothing. They talked about the oppression of Haiti, right? And how the Haiti president basically put himself in that position. But they forgot to mention one key detail. That brother's black. The people who kept him in power is black. But they mentioned that America helped support him. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about aligning with these black people globally, what do these black people stand for? What's their principles? What's their etiquettes? What side of justice do they align with? It's like they don't see any problem with aligning with people just because of melanin, right? And they never get into nuances of like if these people are good and bad. They even said like it's hard for us to unite here because we not united, right? That's true. That's why we here. We here to unite our people.
That's
We're
right.
trying to unite somebody internationally, right? Imagine like walking into the NCAA tournament and saying, I want to give every team in here a motivational speech, right? Not your team. I'm going to give every team a motivational. It doesn't work like that. You got to crawl before you walk, right? This conversation was like so dismissive, right? It's like we sit at home, we read books all day, and we know everything, right?
Mhm.
And you can go to Sinetta channel any day and see brothers like that arguing with each other, right?
Yeah.
Y'all don't agree with each other, right? But y'all got such like this animus for ADOS because we didn't come in and kiss the ring.
Yeah.
What they failed to mention is that the person who gets the ear of the generation, right, is going to set our nation up to win this fight, right? They don't have the ear of the youth.
That's right.
And that's their animus with us. We have the ear of the youth. We have the ear of our people because we speak to them in the condition that they already in, right?
Mhm.
We speak to them, right? We know you can't pay rent. We know you can't put food on the table, right? We know you can't pay your child support. We know such and such is locked up and can't make bond. We know your certain of our community women is getting evicted. Like this whole international mind frame before you do national is crazy. That's like I'm hungry.
But Jared,
I'm
Jared.
hungry.
I mean, I'm saying Jared, but Tanner, right? That comes from that college, non-realistic. They're still on the college campus, just having these ideas. They're still idealists and not realists. So when we talk about Professor Ball specifically, what you said was so important because not only is what you said correct, but the other thing is that they don't have the ear of the youth because they're not connected to the culture that we're talking about. If we weren't connected to the culture, we still wouldn't have the ear of the youth. What makes us connected to the brothers and sisters who are going through all these different struggles is we come from that cultural experience. Let's talk about brother Javar Ball, right? This brother is raised by his white mother, absent of his black father. So that's not the same situation that we're talking about, right? So he's like a lightweight Barack Obama, kind of living the same experience without accessing the same success, right? So he's a professor at what? Morehouse?
Morgan State.
Morgan State.
Yeah, Dr. Jared Ball.
He's a professor at Morgan State, right? So he's one that we have entrusted our youth with to enhance their beautiful black minds. What is he going to give them in his classroom?
But you know what, Dr. Logic, this is what kills me specifically about Dr. Ball.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Ball, first off, part of his work was part of the Color of Wealth studies.
Mm-hmm.
The Color of Wealth report. So he's very well aware of Black American positionality right now.
Yes.
And also, when he wrote the myth and propaganda about Black buying power, part of his argument was that, there's different tropes that are set up concerning Black Americans specifically, because he wasn't talking outside the United States. He was talking right here. And where a lot of these particular fallacious arguments come from about all this money that we supposedly spend without, flagrantly, and we don't. And he was making that particular argument and where it actually came from. And one of the things that he said on several radio programs when he was talking about his book is that these particular fallacious arguments that people make up about Black spending power is just to give credence to why Black people are poor, basically saying it's our fault. But the thing about it is that he well enough, because he even said it. He said it. Do Black people deserve reparations? He said it on our show too. He said yes, they do. But I just don't think that we're going to get it. And instead of just building straw men and being projective towards you all or any person that actually is in this particular fight, he's just like you all said before, it's just being very dismissive. I said, but these arguments very well. You've done the work as well, Dr. Ball. So why are you just going to just completely tell other people, especially when he was talking to you and Brother Chad and Brother Ibrahim about being ahistoric and Brother Derek about being ahistoric, you are still, conflating arguments and not making much sense at all and especially when you know better. And that's the thing that made me just kind of go like, I felt like my brain was exploding on fire and it was about to come out my ears because he knows better.
He knows better.
He
What I
knows.
think?
So that comes from being smart, right? He has the intelligence. My bad, Ali, but that I just wanted to say this. That comes from he's intellectual, right? He's an academic. He understands how to analyze the data and look at the situation from an intellectual perspective. But him being not connected to the culture, right, has him root his positions in a very weird way because he has the same positions, right? If you really listen to them, if you take away the Pan-Africanists and just look at, because that's like a historical, cultural type of association he has, an idealistic thing. If you look at what his real politics are, though, they're like party line Democrat politics, right? I had a debate. We were on Sister Tamara Johnson Seeley's program, and one of the candidates that was running for U.S. Senator with her was on there saying the same kind of exact stuff. So if you really talk to Ball and get his politics out, he's going to really be for those everything for everybody politics that you see most Democrats supporting, right? Say, you know what, y'all, reparations is good, but what we really need is this, like, fix America's social problems, and we need a lot of social reform and things of that nature. Let's do everything for everybody type politics. That's at the core of what's wrong with and what's stopping him and us from meeting people like him and us meeting together politically, because they're rooted in that, because you don't understand the struggle. I'm ranting, but you have to understand, when you don't have stories of your uncles and fathers being hung, being chased home because they're Black, if you don't have that history of being a refugee moving from the South, seeking asylum in northern states, you don't understand what we're talking about. And that's not that long ago. If you were able to be sheltered under whiteness because you had a white mother who could kind of access whiteness and have you sheltered from all of the racial terror that my family could not hide from, you don't understand what we're talking about. So you have a softer heart in this regard than I do. I don't have no tolerance. I understand the severity and the extremity of what the situation is, because my grandfather was chased home because he was Black. You understand? I had people in my family that was lynched and burnt to death and skinned and their body parts auctioned off. So I understand what the Freedmen were doing, because on the other side, I have people who was running from office and who obtained political power, who did great organizing work and political work in Chicago, Illinois, in Springfield, Illinois, in Peoria, Illinois, and all around the state of Illinois. So I understand how to fight the power, and understanding that that is a very limited position. And I understand what needs to be done to become the power. And that's what we're teaching. If you want to be successful like Martin Luther King and actually do transformative policies, you have to get in that lane. If you want to just do a whole lot of talking and emotionalism, then you have to understand your position in that particular space. But that is not what's going to bring about the change that's necessary. It's going to take political action, and being invested in the country that your ancestors built is not no Uncle Tom position. They want to throw that. These Pan-African niggas want to always say, when you want to get political, you are Uncle Tom, when he works at an institution funded by white dollars. That don't even make no sense. Your check gets signed by white folks, and you want to tell me I'm doing Uncle Tom politics when I'm out here pushing for reparations and the transformative Black agenda, social change, and all that stuff, where it don't make any sense, family.
Indeed, Ali.
Yeah, to the point, I was in the chat telling one of those Pan-Africans, why don't you expatriate? See, that's one of my go-to lines. Just expatriate. Like, why are you here complaining and paying taxes on top of that? So you saying that this is an oppressive regime, a racist oppressive regime. Okay, fine. Why are you paying taxes to it? You're funding your own oppression. Why don't you stop paying taxes? And why don't you expatriate and go back to Black Africa somewhere? Why don't you do that, as opposed to telling us we're crazy for trying to do transformative politics here? And what I really think this is all about, I think this is a push. I think that this is a push put together by Narcan and Cobra to try to suppress the voices who are pushing for the Darity edits, and they're pushing to ensure that HR 40 is inclusive of the criteria that Dr. Darity has established. That's what I really think this is. And I mentioned that in the earlier program that we did, that a lot of this stuff to me seems designed to indirectly be shooting at Dr. Darity and what it is that he came up with in terms of the criteria, because that's really what they're arguing against. When you look at the whole thing from, you know, from the basis of it all, that's really what they're arguing against. It's his criteria, and they don't like it. I think this is a concerted effort on the parts of these people to try to suppress that and to keep the voices who are attached to that and pushing that from rising.
Yeah.
I just want to ask them, why don't y'all never have no smoke for CARICOM?
Oh, never.
They don't have no smoke for anybody on the diaspora that do. They didn't have no smoke for the Australian Aboriginals that only advocated for their own specific justice claim. They don't. There's no smoke for anybody, and those nations know that. That's why they come here and stick their nose in the air, because they know, like, they think we stupid or that we don't know what's going on. When ADOS comes with specificity and gets to talking about tribalism and what's going on in their country and how we about to put the gate up, that's when it's like, oh, the con is up. But they can run back to the Pan-African, because the Pan-Africans are saying, hey, we all melanated people and we all should just come together. But my thing is that, like, they talk revolutionary, but they don't live revolutionary, right? They can never address what they do in their day-to-day lives, how they function, that's anti-capitalist, how they function, that's anti-revolution. There's been times in America where people like John Africa and what happened over in Philadelphia before they was bombed, right? They were living in the Black community, but they were self-sustaining themselves. I mean, Malcolm didn't have no job. Fred Hampton didn't have no job. Huey P. Newton didn't go to Kroger's and then get off and do his life. These people work for the community, right? There's no difference in how they live their day-to-day lives and how we live our day-to-day lives, right? The only thing that's different is this ideology and this rhetoric that they spew, and it doesn't work with the people. I mean, even if you want to say solidarity amongst Black people, right? Where does that leave your mother if she's white? Where does that leave that side of the family that raised you, right? Like that's your lineage. That's your lineage, right? I mean, you're gonna talk Black to us, but then you got to go to your family functions, right? Then you have to assist and aid with your people, right? Our message is more inclusive, like to him and his people, to all our people, than his message is, right? No youth is going to join that, right? There's a reason why they had their conference in Detroit and they had about 100 people, and it was all their people. Nobody is receptive to that, right? Y'all took a HR 40 bill, a serious bill that we put work on, propelled it, right? Got hearings on, and turned it over into a clown show. You had a mixtape rapper who did a video butt naked with underwear on. I mean, like, how? Like, Herschel Walker is bad enough, right? But you bring a 20-year-old mixtape rapper.
Talk to him now. Talk to him.
Like, you turn HR 40 into a laughing joke.
Right.
Then the second time around, you didn't even strategize better. The Republicans strategized. They got better coons, right? They was more strategic in how they collaborated to tell a story of why we shouldn't get reparations. And the Democratic side was still scattered. Sheila Jackson Lee was just looking kerfuffle, like she don't know what's going on.
Kept on holding up pictures.
I obviously think she's there to actually kill reparations. Anytime you can support a specific reparations claim for CARICOM, which you and your family and your lineage will benefit, but you hold the American reparations under your thumb, like if we would allow her to, and you can just play with it all willy-nilly. Look, they would literally be at Sheila Jackson Lee's front door. She was in Jamaica trying to try this BS. Right? If you put together a panel and you allowed the opposition to have like a third or 40% of the time to speak, and they was more organized, they would literally be at her door. This is so disrespectful. This is not solidarity amongst Black people. This is somebody who was an outsider who was able to come inside, take control of a serious justice claim, right? Our hero's journey, our story, and basically make a mockery of it. That's not solidarity. That's an enemy.
That's
Fact.
right. That's
Fact.
right.
Right.
And this is why we got to become more politically active, man. You know, we try to have some brothers and sisters from Houston on the platform. So, you know, with hopes that they would have an understanding that it was better to be, at least one of them, you know, was seemed serious. The other one, I guess that person believe it's better to be a Twitter troll than to try to actually push some legislation or push Sheila Jackson Lee out the way, period. So, I mean,
Even Sheila Jackson Lee, I was trying to find it. She just introduced, because Dawn was telling us about it. You guys remember that she just introduced House resolution for Black immigrants, talking about Black Europeans, Black Africans, and Black Caribbeans.
who did that?
Sheila Jackson Lee. She just did it, and I think that she did it the day after the HR 40 hearing.
Oh, I don't even think I heard that one. That's crazy.
She I wish I'm going to try to do some searching around just to see if I can find it. But yeah, it was so this is the person that's actually trying to handle our justice claim, right? And to your point, Ibrahim, when talking about how the Republicans were way more prepared, first off, I'm just tripping, why would you even allow an ex-football player who has a very bad handle on the English language to testify about a House bill? That's one.
and got a whole white person sitting in the background on the laptop typing as if he's sending what to say. You didn't even have the situational awareness to tell this individual to get your ass in the other room or something. I'm
Right.
on live doing some serious business. You just got a whole white person just in Indian now typing in the corner somewhere. What kind of sense is that? That was a mess. Go ahead.
I'm still tripping that he couldn't even say facts finding. He couldn't even say facts finding. I mean, and oh gosh, it's so much to say about all of this, right? It's and my whole thing, even with that, again, I keep on going back to none of these brothers, especially going back to the Pan-African panelists, is none of them ever give any smoke to other people from the diaspora when they're very specific about their advocacy in their respective countries. Has any of you all seen the recent 5-part episode of Small Axe on Prime?
No, I haven't seen it.
No.
Okay. So the very first episode is about the Mangrove Nine. And basically what it was is that it was a group of Caribbeans living in England, specifically in Notting Hill. And the Mangrove was a restaurant that a lot of Black intellectuals would frequent. That was from this neighborhood, and it was constantly being raided by the police. So they tried to do the more passive route about contacting their representatives and stuff so that they can get the police off of their backs. That didn't work. So they had a demonstration. They marched from their restaurant to the police station, and the police came and they started to riot, and then 9 of them got arrested. Now, what ended up happening is that the ones who helped put together the demonstration were actually part of the Black Panther Party. But I thought it was very interesting that even though that the demonstrators or the ones who were organized, the demonstrators that were part of the Black Panther Party there, was advocating for local issues. Not one time did they bring up the struggle that was going on in the United States. They would talk about Black people's struggle all over, but when it came to advocacy and when they were trying to get done, it was done right there in Notting Hill, England, for what was going on with them at that particular time. They wasn't talking about the diaspora. They wasn't talking about what's going on in Nigeria with the Biafran war, which was going around, which was just like quelled maybe like a few years previous to that particular demonstration happening. They were not talking about apartheid in South Africa. They were talking about the police problem that they were happening right then and right there. So when we're talking about reparations here, we're talking about the injured party. It has no assault on what's happening around the world. And it's not that even we're saying that, well, fuck Africa. That's not what's happening. What we're just saying is that we're specific about the injury that our particular people actually absorbed being here for 400 plus years. That's it. And if you look at any reparations claim that happened into the United States, it was never an all-party thing. It was never an all-people thing. It was always about a specific group of people. I mean, the Native Americans got billions from the country in lawsuits and in policy. It was and different lawsuits and policies was naming specific tribes, or they were talking about specific states for Native Americans in that area. It wasn't talking about everybody else.
That's right. Okay? And Cynthia, talk about the lawsuit that was just won by I don't know which tribe it was, for the Oklahoma. I think it was Oklahoma or something. They just like won half of a state or something like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to see like when was the last thing that was actually won, because like there was a whole thing that I was looking up. Yeah, it was like it was like a few months ago that they won a lawsuit and they had to actually give back money and land to a specific tribe. But it was never it was never like okay, everybody gets it. And so that's another thing that was kind of killing me too with these people, that what they were talking about, well, white supremacy ain't gonna give it, so we shouldn't advocate for it. I mean, like, but the thing is that's first off, if we always had that particular ideology, we would have never got a civil rights bill. We would have never got voting rights. We would have never got the Fair Housing Act of 1968. We wouldn't even never got the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment. None of that would have ever happened without advocacy. If we just stood there and just took it, none of that stuff would have happened. And also too, like I said, but the United States has set precedents since 1783 paying reparations. They have paid reparations all the way from 1783 up until this year.
Of course.
So like if this is never going to happen, then the precedent would be more like it's not going to happen because the United States never paid it. But that's not true. They have. And I mean, and we even have precedent of the United States paying reparations to injured Black people, for specific harm. The Tuskegee experiment, $10 million. So we already know the United States can do it if we advocate for it. If we just sit on our asses and twiddle our thumbs and just type real big in the chest, Guruja, whatever the hell your name is, because I saw you on Twitter. You have big smoke on Twitter, but you was not talking real crazy. But you sure wasn't talking like that when the brothers was talking to you on the stream.
He was talking crazy on Twitter, wasn't he?
Hell yeah, he was.
Who is this y'all speaking about?
The dude, the Karuja, whatever his name is. I don't know.
Kamal, all of them. They were on. Both of them was on there talking crazy. The dude Franklin with the last name Franklin, and the brother with the hoodie, the gray hoodie. They both was on Twitter, man, going crazy.
They was talking real big. They had weight, like what you said, Dr. Harris is like, yeah, I got smoke for y'all. That's how they was talking. But when y'all got to having a discourse, I was like, where the smoke? Where the fire? Yeah. I don't see none.
And that's why they tried to play the game the way they did with the time and all of that, because they knew if they got to letting us get off, Ibrahim was going to get to hitting them with uppercuts, Chad hitting them with the consistent jab. You know what I'm saying? I'm coming with the right. It was going to be ugly in there. So they had to really kind of manage what was said and how much was said. And you see, everything was all decorum and everybody was doing parliamentary procedure until I asked the question. Then the ball hopped right on in.
That's right. I peeped that.
I'm like, damn. I'm like, damn, when we started doing that, I thought everybody got to get their little time on. He comes straight into interrupting. He was all-time conservative. Everything was about decorum at first. I got to ask him some questions. He go, boo, no, hold on. All right, so they wanted to play the game in a way where, you know, when you go on in the way field, they got home advantage. That's all it is. And I understand that because we've had home advantage on Be the Power many times, and I get it. So we had to let him get away with a few things, family. You understand? I know a lot of people's like, why'd y'all let him get away with that? Because we at the away court. We don't get to call the fouls. They got the referees. They control the score clock and all of that. They got the whistles. You know what I'm saying? So next time, you know, maybe if they're as brave as we were, they will come on our program because
that was a one-time thing. You could tell they not.
Yeah.
I may swing Dr. Ball in to the 13% again, but the other brothers, I don't think
Ball
so.
said I talked to Ball on Clubhouse a couple weeks ago, and he said that he would come on. I actually spoke your name up, Cynthia. I was like, you was on my sister's program, the 13%. He was like, oh yeah, my people's from Chicago. I was like, yeah. So you know, he gave me his email. I shot him the email. I don't know what happened after that. I believe Ball would come on, but the rest of them guys, Kalanji and Kamal, if I'm saying his name correctly, I don't believe that they would come on. Guys like that are best in places where they have a moderator that has some type of favoritism towards their position or some type of favoritism towards their status in the person's eyes who's controlling the platform, some form of reverence, etc., because they know that they're going to get bailed out. Being a constant patron on Sarnetta channel over the last 11, 12 years, I know that full well. So I don't think them guys will come over.
A lot of people, and these brothers were examples, in my opinion, tonight, have just actively and like intentionally stopped learning. They have ended their educational journey with like Seize the Times by Bobby Seals and, you know, Revolutionary Suicide by Huey P. Newton. And they have not continued to grow and enhance their knowledge and understanding of what it may take to change our conditions in this country. So they still run down that old well, brother, because Pan-Africanism a couple decades ago was the height of Black intelligence. They think that they're cool. They got stuck in that mentality and in that paradigm, and they've not been able to evolve out of that. So they think that if they stay there, and they don't even realize that they're stuck there. But the movement has been stagnant ever since that has been the dominant thought motivation for our people ever since we left civil rights movement and got into African centered perspective, because that came after. That came after. You understand? Even though they called Du Bois and Blyton the fathers of Pan-Africanism, that was something totally different than what we saw happen after the 80s. In the 80s and the 90s, in the early 2000s, we saw this African-centered perspective where all the scholars, you know, Ivan Van Sertima, Shank Amti Diop, Dr. Ishaka Musu Barashango, Dr. Clark, Dr. Ben, you understand? All of these different scholars came and injected us with this African perspective.
But real quick, Logic, real quick, I mean to cut you. Chancellor Williams' book, The Destruction of a Black Civilization, really, it's garbage, but it became the pivotal point of how Pan-Africanism would view their Americanism. And I think that is so important to add when we're having this conversation. And let me say real quick again, much of and I'm just using an example, right? Islam, for instance, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, many of those Afrocentric scholars, they had their thing against Islam, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't a negative thing, right? When Chancellor Williams drops Destruction of a Black Civilization, where he makes up a whole bunch of Islamic invasion histories as a Christian, that's when you start to see a change. So you start to get Afrocentrists coming at the Islamic movement. This is why the moment I enter into Sarnetta's realm on his channel as a more that's into Islam, I'm attacked. And that attack was always sustained by the Afrocentrists. So I wanted to add that in there too, because our Islam here in America was almost always political. Malcolm X made it political with the Nation of Islam.
Even with Malcolm X, right? I don't even want to get into that, but I'm going to continue because it was so African-centered perspective and Afrocentrism was so damaging politically because it got us to, you know, going into Wonderland and thinking about pyramids and Timbuktu and things like that, instead of understanding that we were supposed to pick up the baton and carry it forward from the civil rights movement. But the Afrocentrism came in after the onslaught or during the same time as the chemical attack of the crack era happened simultaneously. So now we're dealing with two things. We're dealing with a paradigm shift academically, taking us from the era of Dr. King and Huey P. Newton, where politics and our focus was here in America, taking us to Africa with, you know, the rest of the scholars, right? And then we're also suffering from the crack era at the same time, destroying wealth, destroying families, destroying communities. So now we've been, body and mind has been separated. You understand? So now we're trying to bring this thing back together, and we see this resistance. We see the resistance of people who were young coming up, like Dr. Ball, come up under an African-centered perspective. And we are shaking his whole foundation right now. He doesn't understand that, but he doesn't realize that we're just bringing him back into the state of mind of his ancestors. Well, I don't even know. Not him specifically. Hold on. Not him specifically, but people in that space. We're just trying to bring them to their state of mind of their forefathers here in America who knew what needed to be done for their descendants. And it's a political thing. It's a political fight, and we have been successful. The only time you start getting to this we can't do type of mentality is when you start drifting further towards the African-centered perspective. It's a defeated mentality. The sons and daughters of freedmen, the freedmen themselves, have always had a mentality of we gonna do whatever it takes. Our culture is freedom fighting.
We made a way out of no way.
Rights. We the masters of making a way out of no way. We have proven with empirical evidence, anecdotal evidence, and any kind of evidence you want to bring about, we have shown that we can defeat any circumstance and we can come out of any circumstance in a better position than when you found us. That is in the history. That's from chattel slavery to lynching through. They made it so bad for us during Reconstruction. We are still here. They've tried everything they can to have us as an extinct group, to actually wipe us out. They practice all forms of genocide, everything you can think of, and we still here. So what you need to do is come back home to America and this American-centered perspective, understand your lineage as a son or a daughter of the freedmen, and understand that glorious history of fighting the worst devil in the world and having the most levels of success. Because anyone who has been sick, go ahead, Ibrahim, come on now.
That's the natural drift, right? The natural drift is towards more specificity. As we get more data, we get towards more specificity, which lead us to like a more national movement. I think Dr. Jared Ball is kind of in contradiction with his contribution to the Pan-Africanist realm. If you go from Garvey to like the 60s and Malcolm's era, they brought more specificity, right? And then you go like past that to Dr. Amos Wilson and Dr. Clark and them, right? More specificity. Well, when you get to Dr. Jared Ball and his peers or contemporary, what you see is like he brings in the myth of Black buying power, right? That's specific to a certain group, right? That aligns more with our philosophy, right? He's in contradiction with his work aligns with our philosophy. But like you said, he continues to drift to that African centeredness that gets you nowhere politically, right? Gets you nowhere politically. Like it's pie in the sky, keeps you looking for something else. There's 54 countries in Africa. There's always something going on, right?
Right.
Instead of you like tying yourself down and what's going on in your community, right? Like this is absurd, right? Nobody gets hungry, right? I'm hungry, my kids is hungry, my wife is hungry, and think I need to end world hunger. No, I need to go get us something to eat. I need to go get us something to eat first, right? We can worry about everything else later. For them to say, like at one time, Brother Kalanji said, like, it would be more, like if something about if Africa would like demand reparations for America than the actual people that was brought over here, right?
Yeah, I heard that silliness.
Dismiss our whole argument as like, I heard of you people, but I didn't know y'all was really real and really believed in this stuff. I mean,
like really?
New York Times, ABC News, like all over public, CNN, right? We had the conference, like a bill was passed, right? But you didn't know we exist, right? But you thought, or you think that Africans was kidnapped by Europeans, right? So your history comes from roots. We need to do more studying, but your history comes from roots, right? And you on their terrain in a foreign land. The same people would have died if the Indians would have left them alone. Went over to Africa and caught Africans. And just sit there and tell us we need to do more study. We need to do more study, right? Like these people are like soaked in this fantastic like mysticism, right? One of the kids that was on the last program came out like he's a comic book guy, right? And I think that's their link. I think a lot of them are comic book guys, right? Because this is comic book Pan-Africanism, right?
That's
These
right.
Serious Pan-Africanists. This is not what they're talking about is not serious. It was a bunch of circular talk. It was nothing about how they was going to get anything done, right? Even when Brother Chad spoke specifically to tangible things that was already there. And he walked them from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 to step 4. And this guy said, well, that's theoretical and political.
Wait, what?
That's what I'm saying. I was like, what the hell is this man talking about? You could have not been more intentional, crystal clear than what Chad was when he gave his perspective and position. That's why I'm glad he did that, because it really put a big bazooka spotlight on how intentionally disruptive and dishonest that Jared Ball was being. That's what I really was talking about when he just created a position for Chad. He totally dismissed everything that brother said. There was no way you could have confused what he said. A baby could have understood that. My dog could have understood that. Jared Ball went and just remixed that whole demonstration and just was like, so you're saying this and that and that, this, and I'm like, what? No one on this panel said that we would not accept help.
Brother Logic, remember his handle is I mix what I like.
Ooh.
It's an elitist perspective, right? It wasn't the message, it was the messenger. They didn't respect the messenger because he's not tied to a PWI. That's what it is, right? If they would have had Charlemagne the God on there or Angela Rye, they would have gave them the utmost respect. They would have answered their questions, right? Mm-hmm. And somehow they think from this petty bourgeois position they winning, right? You brought together 100 people for what was supposed to be a reparations convention, right? Nobody's listening to you guys because you guys are not taking the people serious. If you don't take the people serious, they won't take you serious. I mean, that's the same thing that happened to us within our hashtag movement, right? You thought we was going to do the work, but you could ignore the people, right? That's not how this thing works. Like, we always talk about grassroots, and I'll just end on this point. They kept referring to them being organizers, but they hadn't had anything that they could point to that they organized.
Right.
It's just fantastical. It's just, I'm going to just say I'm a revolutionary, therefore I'm a revolutionary. I'm going to say I'm a capitalist, anti-capitalist, therefore I'm an anti-capitalist. Even though every Friday I get up and I check my direct deposit, right? Like you just make things up as you go along. Like, to me, after the first round, the whole thing just got absurd.
Oh yeah. After the first round, I was like, what is going on here? Everybody made such clear and excellent points. Somebody put in the chat, reparation is 5, Pan-African is 0. brother, and I kept copying and pasting and sharing it. So that was me, man, in the BTP page in the chat. Brother Derek Williams was on that panel.
What's up, family?
Yes.
In that debate,
I
what's
want to
going
say,
on?
Brother Derek, when you started, I didn't know where you was
Me
going.
neither. I was like, what is he
But you
saying?
came through, though.
And then
You
he was,
came
I was
through.
like,
I
okay.
was like,
Hold on. They
Derek, brother
specifically-
Derek, I knew you was gonna come
they
through. I was feeling
specifically
you.
ignored him. Because
Man,
you
I was
are
trying to
Yeah,
absorb
they did.
everything
Yeah,
that
they
everybody was saying.
you
By the time
came
we got
from the
to last
community they lie about
I'm
being a
writing
part
little
of.
notes. I can't remember all this. Let me just go off the top of the head.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
You did a good job, brother. It's an honor sharing the panel with you, brother.
thank you,
Yes.
brother. Appreciate
Brother
that.
Chad, come on, brother. We need you to come on and give your afterthoughts. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying? Come on,
please.
Chad. Come on,
Share,
baby.
share the link
Well,
with this
He
brother
said he
Chad.
chilling.
Y'all,
He eating with
y'all
the
touched
fam
on a
right
lot
now.
of it, for real. I mean, I think where they're caught is in between reality and a theory or an ideology. And I fully understand that. You know, I also understand Pan-Africanism started here. See, there's so many things we didn't really get to put in it. So most Black Americans that don't even know the depths of Pan-Africanism are actually like beneficiaries of it just by a product of our culture here. Black,
That's right.
everybody Black. So that's the way that we think. So at the end of the day, they're kind of caught in a cultural frame. We're talking about a global fight, which admittedly, the historical aspect, Ball and them, they got that. You know, I don't even want to go in that with you, but I got logical sense. I know that you can't win no global struggle when people can't get together here, and they're not doing it in the 54 countries or 55.
That's right. They're not doing it over there. They're not.
Right.
Hold on, brother. I was just
no
went in a clubhouse the other night. The Somalians versus the Nigerians. They was calling each other every single name available.
Yeah.
I mean, the clubhouse got so big that it became the topic of clubhouse, to whereas room after room after room was created off of that one room. So that's stuff that they're trying to talk this Pan-Africanism. We need to all get together and throw our spears and whatever. What are they talking about? Then wait, you got the brothers over here that's confused. You know, I think that was Ibrahim that has said that about everybody, or that could have been you, Brother Derek, about everybody not being on the same accord. You got brothers that's trying to be Hebrews. You got brothers that's trying to be Moorish sovereigns. You got brothers, we've been going after what we call the pretendians. I don't want to say the tribe. I'm going to try to keep it clean. These things, I guess they think they could shoot arrows at the problems, and the problems is going to go away. Like your name is Daryl, man. You're not Big Chief Buffalo Wings.
That's right.
Like,
everybody want to be everything but what they ancestors really were.
But Brother Derek, you made the point when you told all of them, and you were so right. Y'all don't even know who you are.
They ancestors.
You got three different answers. One dude was African, and I'm like, dude, listen. I
got an echo.
The chattel slavery. Okay, I'm not gonna pull your card on here, bro, but it don't sound like to me the undertone that I hear, and I'm pretty good at hearing accents. What's up, OG? You know what I'm saying? That you are actually a descendant of chattel slavery, but we gonna stay away from that for right now. You know what I'm saying? So, what's up, OG?
It was an echo coming from your background. I had to mute real quick.
Everybody, go ahead and mute out real quick.
Yeah, unmute, Otis.
Is it better now? I turned down my sound. Is it better now?
Yeah,
Look,
definitely.
The only question I got is y'all hit him with the jab. You came with a good right cross. But why didn't you go ahead and knock them out and ask them why the only written plan that we know of with this Pan-Africanism is that NARC and Cobra IBW 21 Reparations Authority? Why didn't y'all ask them about that? Why would we need a permanent middleman to hand us anything we get, be it monetary or any other asset? I wanted y'all to put a dagger in them. Look,
but you know what?
My Superman cape and come on in and help y'all.
Come on.
But you know what? You know what, Otis? You know what? It would have been funny, right? If any of the reparationists would have brought that up And any of them would have tried to defend that position, because most of them were up there saying they didn't believe reparations could happen in the first place. So that would have been funny to kind of put them in that type of pickle right there.
Oh yeah, because I'm telling you the bad thing when Bob, the mess he tried to put on Chad, Chad looked like the perfect Republican. Regardless of the question or the spin, he stayed on message. See,
That's right.
what I keep saying. I don't care what they do in the midst of the combat, because when you see people argue from a distance, you don't know which one is the idiot. You got to throw your punches. And he stayed on message.
That's
and my
right.
man, Derek, look, I'm going to say this, then I'm going to get off, because Yvette swears that I'm a new appendage for Darity. But you gave one of the strongest 5-minute presentations of From Here to Equality. You don't mind if I get this iMovie thing right? I download that, man, and make it a little 5-minute clip. You roll right on through that from chapter 1 to chapter 13. Nigga. I speak. I'm on my second round.
That, bro. Nah,
Be
whatever
strong,
you
my
want
brother.
to, bro.
Cynthia,
Family.
look, I'm gonna have to clone you, because the rest of these sisters, they hold it back, talking about won't nobody let us in. Get on in up in here.
Get on up in here,
Get on up
sisters.
in here.
That's right.
It's Women's History Month, though. I'm representing all women, Black women everywhere. So that's
Well, but
here.
no, you know
I'm
what?
just kidding.
You're gonna have to tell them to get out the damn get out the spectator seats and jump in there with you. Tell them.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, no,
Be strong. Now, look,
we need more sisters that's actually like speaking full chested about reparations for our people and not trying to get the bag. You know?
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Oh, eventually they're gonna catch on, don't worry. Look, but I want to say this to y'all. I said it when I first started calling in on that other platform when I was a utility. I got faith in you youngsters. Y'all gonna get it done. And contrary to popular belief, I'm one of them Negroes been in this 4 decades deep. 4 decades.
Right.
If you go back to some of her first stuff, I told her from the time I got out of high school, my junior and senior year in high school, I've been on this thing. But I'm a true abolitionist since about the 7th grade, when I had to go back. The teacher gave me an opportunity to go back and fill out whether or not slavery was abolished, because I couldn't get past that word except. So I'm an anal kind of person. So this, along with what we're doing here, they're going to have to do something about that 13th Amendment, because see, it makes it legal to put all the rest of the stuff in place they've been doing to us. Y'all be strong. I'm loving it.
Honest.
Thanks for pulling up, OG.
Thank you, Otis. Thank you so much.
Indeed, man. So, I mean, Chad said he might be able to jump on, but we're at the hour mark. I mean, if y'all want to keep the conversation going, definitely do that.
Yeah, because there's still some more that we got to dig out now, because there was a lot going on in that platform. And Chad,
I wanted you all to bring this up. And I think that Brother Logic, you was just about to allude to this. When they were talking about, again, this whole international push, and especially supporting initiatives going on in Africa specifically, I was wondering, will anyone please bring up when Malcolm X went over to Africa and was asking for assistance when it came to Black Americans, when we was going, when our people was going through struggles during the civil rights movement and getting dogs sicked on us and all this other stuff, and and the African leaders said no.
Yeah. We read that whole thing on our platform before, but so they already was upset, and what they need to I was trying to. We didn't have the time for it to get the way we need to get.
You could tell we was all thinking, because that popped in my head too.
Everybody knew. They didn't know, which was crazy, and if they did know, that makes it nefarious what they was doing.
Me and Logic had talked about that yesterday. I'm gonna be honest. Ball sent me an email about how the format of the debate was going to go.
Bro.
Today, about 5 o'clock, he changed the email to a different format, right?
Yeah.
There was not initially going to be that little introduction part. We were just going to get right into it. And I think it was going to go 5, 5, 5, 5, because we had a whole strategy mapped out.
Right.
The way it kind of changed today, because if you remember, Logic was talking about something, and he said we're going to get into that later in the freeform part. So,
right, where that happened at?
My whole strategy was being saved for like the freeform part, right? Because my whole thing was like, you don't see, no unified global African solidarity over there, right? But so the whole format was kind of changed, and we just had to adapt to it on the fly. And then it was cut short because that part was cut out, right? Even when it came to the question, I asked the first question and nobody could even answer it, right? Then Kamau asked a question, and that was basically it. And Dr. Ball was like wrapping things up, right? They didn't want to get into a back and forth, right? That could have been like a high school debate, right? Like that was like very well, Ian, say what you need to say. Let's get out. Everybody won. Blue ribbons for everybody, right? That's kind of like that was. They didn't want to get into like a back and forth and get into the nuances. And I don't even believe they were prepared to even answer like a lot of our questions, right? They just totally skipped over my question. And that's why Logic had to bring it back up. Like they were not prepared. Even when I talked about like, we were traded, right? And then he says, traded for what? Traded for who? Like, is this some type of ignorant? No, but it's like cheekies that y'all like, right? But like, it was never meant to be. And if there's like 10 emails between me and him with everybody else tagged in them, and you can tell he was very defensive from the very beginning, right? And he definitely like, even if we cracked the joke a certain way, you can just tell he's like, where is this going? Where is this going? So we were definitely on like their home turf, right?
Definitely. Yeah, that's the key, because I saw when after you said what you said, and you know, I gotta actually commend Jared Ball. He played home court how he was supposed to. When you get to seeing you about to take an L, you got to change the rules, baby. So he understood what was going on. He changed the rules. He audible on the play. He just took over. So that's why I tried to bring him back. I'm like, hold on, you ain't even addressed what Ibrahim said. And then the way they closed out, like Ibrahim was saying, that was not how the program was supposed to go at all. He just was like, I'm done, man. Y'all close out, because if we let these brothers keep talking, we getting cleaned up in here. We're going to get tuned up. We can't keep doing gymnastics all night. We tired, and we're going to start falling down, and you know, we're going to slip on our backflip. We're going to stumble on our somersault. Right. It's going to catch us every way, because we was too unified in our message. And you know, we all just was being sincere with this thing, because none of us, I spoke to Ibrahim, but none of us was just on building like, this is going to be our game plan. This is what we're going to do. That's not what we did. We just are true to this. So it came out natural. And then like, that's just what it is when you really have an organic position politically, and you're not really tied into, you know, what page did I remember that I need to go to some book to find out what I need to say to this, because all your information is, you know, book based and not really in the work boot based, right? So we got boot based politics, because we are the boots on the ground that you're talking about. Brother Ibrahim Tanner is the boots on the ground that you're talking about. Cynthia is the boots on the ground that you're talking about, Brother Derek. So that's what they don't understand, because being in those boots is scary to them. And they want to look at everything from and they're the ones that are strictly theoretical. Everything is theory to them. We're the only ones doing practical work out here. We're the only ones doing applied sciences out here. We're taking the political sciences and applying them in real life. They're talking about it from their office chair, from their PowerPoint that they do in their classrooms. We are the ones who are in the streets organizing the people, moving them to shape legislation and policy. Ball's not doing that. And I'm gonna say this before I let y'all. What's up, Arthur? That's my Chi-Town. You know we in the building strong. So now let me just say this.
What up, Arthur?
I let it go back to the rest of the panel. Is that see what they seem to do? Like, these people are obviously not really confident in their academic scholastic abilities, right? Because like Naheem pointed out early, they really have a problem with Dr. Darity's criteria. I think they not only have a problem with his criteria, I think they have a hidden jealousy of how young people are have Dr. Darity's name in their conversations, and how Dr. Darity has been able to connect with the youth, and they don't have that connection, and they think they could. That's why you hear Dr. Carr stumbling all over Raheem's lyrics and making
Rakim,
my bad, Rakim's lyrics and stumbling all over himself. You understand? Because that's not his lane. He's come from the jive era. He's supposed to be speaking jive, and he talking about who wants to smoke and all of that out of his lane. You don't hear Dr. Darity talking like that. But these are his contemporaries, and these are his colleagues and peers. If they really wanted to have the discussion, so you could talk all big chested and from your high seat on in a select space for token Negroes, right? You can talk crazy to me and Ibrahim, but why don't y'all challenge Dr. Darity? To a formal scholastic debate. That's what scholars do, don't you? We see scholars debate each other in intellectual spaces in a very professional way, right? If you're upset because From Here to Equality is such a powerful, impactful literary work, just produce something that can rival it, brother. But you want to say, we want to bring us on, the people that are in the, you don't want to call your peer to have a discussion, though. You couldn't, but it was proven why you couldn't handle us. So there's no way you can handle a Dr. Darity. You understand what I'm saying? That's what this is all about.
Brother Derek, give us a little bit more of your, because I kind of jumped in and it kind of went, it kept going, it kept going.
That's all good, fam.
Give us a little, go ahead, brother.
But to touch on brother Ibrahim's point, I didn't see that email till 6:45. So I didn't have no idea what the format was. We had talked night before. I pretty much went over a bunch of stuff, knew certain talking points, just accumulated information. Then when I seen that, I was like, oh, at DC, I'm gonna use the term, they was trying to bake a cake for us, right? So I was like, yo, I said they had to change the format, hours before we supposed to do this. And it's going this way. We're supposed to introduce ourselves as ADOS and all this other stuff. So I was like, okay, I see how this is going to go. They basically going to try to set the format. Like at the end of the day, it's ADOS versus the Pan-Africans, and then try to keep it on that. And we pretty much had already decided, like, we was going to stay off the ropes on that. We understood that they kind of wanted to make it a mosh pit type thing. We didn't come here for that. We came here to spread that message for reparations. So even to go into all of the history, we'll do what we have to, but we ain't going, that's not our lane. You know what I'm saying? That's not what we do. We going to come in here. We're going to tell you exactly what we're talking about, which is reparations. So to me, I feel like they just weren't prepared for an ideology that is wrapped in identity. It's not wrapped in trying to be somebody else or fit into another cloth or trying to segue yourself. It's literally cats being cats. So I didn't say it on at the time, but what I was thinking is, and I can't really say it how I want to, but cats in the streets ain't going to accept all that African stuff.
No. You can say it how you want to. You on BTP Media, brother. You can say
look, niggas is not going to accept being African.
That's right. They're not trying to hear that shit.
When we say black or black, that's as close as we get to talking about we're Black Americans because of what this country has done to us. So no, it ain't going to be a whole lot of flag waving for a lot of us, not for all of us. But at the end of the day, to accept being African is to take you out of the context of being black, which is Black American, which is what you know. So just like you were saying about your name is Daryl or whatever, and you talking about you an Indian from the so-and-so tribe, it's like, but you trying to do that while still being Black with the culture that we created here, the descendants of chattel slavery. So to me, it's like that whole formula is outdated. It ain't gonna work. At some point in time, in small circles and pools, you could get people like myself at one point in time to see themselves as a global African, right, in America or whatever. But I mean, I'm from Alexandria, Virginia, Washington, D.C. I lived on the South Side. Niggas over there ain't going for that, bro. Nor should they have to. They should be able to accept the aspect in themselves. You want to bring people, you want to build a global politics for all Black people, then allow Black people to accept themselves, who they are in this country first.
That's That's
then they
right.
can embrace the aspect of the ancestry to being African.
Ooh.
It's not black people don't want to see black people fail or get hurt, but to even have that happen, you got to allow people to embrace themselves, not try to be somebody they not. And that's what they don't really fundamentally get. They're so hooked into that, like these brothers said, that they can't really grasp that. And for them to really grasp that, to understand that, is like to accept being white supremacist or that you're a part of the system. Nah, you telling the cat from Chicago, he from Chicago. For real, the way we do it is from the sides. Like, I'm from the west side, I'm from so-and-so, I'm from Galveston Street. That's who
But
we
but
are.
but they saying that while they are law-abiding, tax-paying citizens.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Like I said, they don't live in a self-reliant environment. So don't
Right.
talk to me about that. I come from that culture, that background. I know that well. So unless you're like Amish or something like that in America, we can't even really have that conversation with true context. Everything you talking about is fluff. It's
absolute nonsense.
It is.
Absolute nonsense.
I
You know what I'm
can even understand when the Karuga. I'm just gonna butcher the man's name.
Karuga.
Whatever the man's name is. When he was talking about I live here, but I don't support the United States. I don't
Makes
support
no sense.
the right. And I'm just like, but dude, I said, no, yes, you do, because you work in the United States.
There you go.
purchased a house
Maybe he doesn't.
in the
Maybe he
United
doesn't.
States. Well,
Maybe he don't work.
maybe
You got a lot of that going on too. Maybe he
okay,
doesn't just sit around
okay.
drinking beers
Well,
and
if
hanging out
you
at the barber shop and then popping
okay,
up. I don't
that's
know.
true. I said,
It's
but okay,
possible.
well, you live here, okay?
Yeah, that's
You
right.
purchase products here, okay?
Yeah.
So you paying a sales tax on the products that you
Yeah.
purchase. That money is
Very-
going into the treasury, sir.
Right.
That's right.
So in
Right.
one shape, way, or form, yes, you do support the United States.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
Especially like if you live here, you support here.
That's right.
Absolutely.
If you live here, you support here, because
Absolutely.
you're not in a different country pushing for whatever or supporting their economy in no shape, way, or form. Even the only thing that you will possibly even contribute is if you order your dashiki from Indonesia. I'm just saying, sir.
You still paying taxes. You got to
And
pay
you
that
still
taxes
paying
to
right.
that water, baby.
That's right. You still paying a tariff on that just to get it back over here. So what are you talking about?
It's just a concept. Like, and I mean, we all get it, right? At the end of the day, like, you don't want to be a part of the evil that takes place in this world. We don't evil. I mean, we're a product of that evil. We're a product of that evil. It created a people. So at the end of the day, we understand that. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, I met Dick Gregory at 12 years old. I didn't even get into it. But my father was the first African-American car dealer in Lexington Park, Maryland, which is the same place where James Wilkes Booth ran to when he shot Lincoln. Okay, just to give you an idea. So black people been in that area since the 1800s. But my father was the first African-American descendants of chattel slavery from Mobile, Alabama, but migrated up to open a car dealership in 1993, which is like, what, 17, 20 years ago, right? But we've been here for how many years? We were here when Lincoln got shot. So at the end of the day, when you think about the concept of that, at the end of the day, my dad ran with the Rainbow Coalition. I grew up with Kathy Hughes. My dad had a Black empowerment radio station, WOL. Where I was going with this is I met Dick Gregory at 12 years old at the grand opening of my dad's dealership. I didn't really know the magnitude of the people I was around. A lot of the people, Jesse Jackson and these cats, I grew up, I wouldn't say around them, but in communication with them. But I was a kid, right? So that whole history there, but I'm saying that to say when Dick Gregory said at 90 years old, you can look this up. He said, I'm a part of capitalism too. Because them bombs they drop in on other countries and stuff, my tax money goes into that. I buy cars and all kinds of stuff here where it's a part of a system. So even if you don't agree with it, you working hand in hand with it, right? So until you find a way to separate yourself from it, which is why I use, because that's what is most relevant to me, the Rastafarian community. Till you figure out a way to do that, you are a part of the system, brother. It's not something you want to be, but it is what it is because this is empirical power. Then I would challenge these brothers too is what empire does not do what the United States has done on some level?
Or
Egypt
tried to do it.
Rome did it, right? China is going to do it. And they're going to use capitalism too because it's already a system that works. Okay, so in regards to Africa, so I do understand, again, not leaning with devilish powers. I get all that, but the world is an ugly place. What's the alternative?
They
What's the
have no alternative. You know,
But
so
see-
let me pull this comment up real quick again. Sister
Yeah.
Friday Jones said Eritrea is at war with Ethiopia right now.
Yes, sir.
Why are they not going to the front lines to preach?
Right.
Like
Talk
where
about it.
where are y'all?
Right.
Y'all, you know, there's a war in Yemen, right? I mean, no, not Yemen. The Nigeria. The Boko Haram and all of these Islamic extremist groups are kidnapped. Just the other day, I think 300 students were kidnapped out in Nigeria again, if I'm not mistaken, right? So it's like, well, what's going on, and where are y'all at in this greater Pan-African struggle? Why don't
Even in Nigeria, well, I was just going to say, even in Nigeria, there is this a re-rise of Biafra ability. And if you guys are familiar with the right after the British left Nigeria, not too long after that was the Biafran Civil War, which was the Igbo versus the whole of Nigeria, which is mostly of the Yoruba, and I believe the Hausa tribe, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, right. And those were, and because like the three biggest tribes in Nigeria were the Hausa, the Yoruba, and the Igbo, and they were all fighting over resources. And now that you have like and especially the Yoruba and the Igbo, they still don't like each other, and they in the same damn country. You know, and I mean, and one, even to your point when you were talking about 54 countries in Africa, is 54 countries. Over 3,000 tribes, over 2,000 tribes speaking over 3,000 different dialects, you know, and everyone is, matter of fact, even when we had our, when Arthur and I had our show, when we talked about Black America, specifically, well, at the time, ADOS, versus the diaspora. And I had a young man that was on there who was from Nigeria living in Great Britain. And I asked him specifically, I said, when you identify yourself, how do you introduce yourself? And then and even though that he's a grown man who's been living in Great Britain since he was 18 years old, he said, I still identify and introduce myself as Nigerian.
Right.
I mean, Friday asked a good question, like why are they not over there? But we know why they not over there. They doing the same thing they did when they was growing up and it was a fight outside, right? They in the house reading books. That's what they do, right? They got 1,000 more books than they do. Think about the ideal of this, right? We got 17% of our population have bachelor's degrees, right? Think about 60 to 70% have high school diplomas, right? But we sitting here making like these theoretic and literary arguments besides going out there and getting the work done, where history has already proved the talented 10th never got off the ground, right? Everything done was done by the people, right? By the people on the bottom, right? Starting with Callie House, right? I don't even think she had more than what, a 4th, 5th grade education, right?
Right. That's right.
I mean, like the idea that you need like this massive amount of like literary knowledge, right? To where you can go and regurgitate these books, right? But it doesn't get you anywhere, right? And I'm not saying that you don't need that and that's not good to have, right? But where's that, like, how do you get activated in your community? Where's that aspect? That speaks more to the people, right? It's one thing for me to tell my son what to do, right? It's another thing for me to show him, right? It's a whole different thing if I actually live that experience, right? If I say do what I do, right? I'm not just gonna show you one time. I'm gonna show you every day, right? Organizers that don't organize. Revolutionaries that don't fight, never got bloody, right? Anti-capitalists that pay taxes and got credit cards, debit cards.
That's right.
Talk to him, Ibrahim. Go. Talk to
You
them.
don't like practice what you preach. That's all I want you to do. Practice what you preach. Don't show up with some headbands, a new Jordan jersey on, and some Jordans. As soon as I pass you the ball, it go right through your hands, right? These people are not serious about that. And that's what they mad at us because we serious, right? We skipped the advanced college. Like, I could have went back to school and got a PhD. I went straight to activism. I don't need the student debt. Right? And we already see, right?
Sure
we got
don't.
people with masters, we got people with PhD degrees, and they don't have no jobs, right?
That's right.
We went straight to the streets, right? Straight to the streets. Who says you need like above and beyond education to like start a mobilization? When you look at our history, where does it say that at? Where does it say that? It doesn't say that anywhere. These people have used school to avoid doing the real work. And now that they're done with school, they keep their mind in Africa or internationally to avoid what's going outside of the front door. They don't want no parts of the front line. And that's period. And that just don't go for them. That go for them Negroes on CNN, MSNBC, and at the CBC as well, right? These people has found a way to stay relevant by ignoring the struggle, right? Al Sharpton is a voice for people that's getting oppressed, but he's never on the front line, right? When he show up, the police show up. Well, we already know he's, CI7. But anyway, when they show up, the police show up. You don't see these people nowhere it's time to be when it's going. Like, these people live in DC. They live in Chocolate City, right? Like your whole community, right, got consumed by the drug game. Where were you? Where are you now? I'm not even gonna get into that. But
get into it, brother. Come on now.
These people, like they, some of them represent problematic people, right? And made a conscious decision to represent problematic people, and got the nerve to talk about William O'Neill, right? We can't do this, right? You either get on board. Or you just gonna die excommunicated because nobody's listening to these dinosaurs. That's the problem.
Right.
That's the problem.
See, this is why you have not heard of Brother Ibrahim before, because that brother is straight fire. So people who are on some other stuff ain't gonna bring a powerful dynamic brother like this on their platform, because you see how he doing his thing, right?
That's right.
Y'all need to be understanding that you have great leaders out here, man. And they understand how to break this thing down, and they just like you. That's what the brother's saying. He just like you. But you got people who are really not connected to your culture, trying to lead the way to the destination that they don't even know how to get to.
Come on, bro.
We're the only ones who know how to get there because we know the way. You understand?
That's right.
We know what we're trying to do. These people are like, well, they're trying to lead from some distant place and say, well, this is what you niggas need to do. Y'all need to do this, that, and the third, right? That's not how none of this works. It never has worked that way. It's the people rising up from among themselves, breeding and grooming their leaders from among themselves, and producing leaders from among themselves. You cannot be disconnected from the culture. And sometimes you just got to recognize when you don't know enough. You just don't know enough, bro.
Yes.
With the sweatpants and the hoodie, he was out to lunch. He didn't know he was talking
Kalanji,
about.
man.
He gonna come about. I only heard bits and pieces, but I can tell y'all position is this. You can't tell off bits and pieces what nobody's position is.
Man.
I only heard bits and pieces, but I told you y'all this and that. No, brother, what you need to be doing is sitting down at the feet of Brother Ibrahim Tanner, sitting down at the feet of Sister Cynthia, sitting down at the feet of Brother Derek, and understanding how to get back to an American-centered perspective, because our ancestors were the Black patriots. Our ancestors were the ones who saved America from destroying itself in the Civil War. We are the ones who survived every horrific situation and scenario that America could bestow upon us. And we are the same people that every group anchors onto to launch themselves to prosperity and the pursuit of happiness, right? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness was built on the backs of my my
Oh
ancestors.
no.
You
There
understand?
we go.
Nobody would have had none of that if it wasn't for our lineage and our blood. Nobody would have had capitalism if it wasn't for our lineage and our blood. Capitalism in America would not exist. So I do want to be a capitalism. You understand that? Because my blood of my ancestors made that shit possible here in America. There wouldn't be no capitalism. So if anyone deserves to reap the fruits off capitalism and whatever you have that comes from all of the work and the ingenuity of my people, so the genius from the cotton gin to Lewis Latimer and the light filament to Katherine G. Johnson and the go, no go entry point back into orbit. We have done everything. So I want it all. And then we as a people will decide how to use all of that. But I want it all. Give it to me all, and I will show you what I want to discard and what I want to keep. But it all belonged to us because we built all the shit. You understand? And when we have these people with these African, Pan-African, and these pretendians, and all these people getting in the way, they don't understand what needs to be done. They have been failing along the way. The only people who have been successful politically in this nation are people who have had an American-centered perspective.
That's right.
That's right.
Successful.
You can't even deny that. That's right.
Harriet Tubman wasn't trying to free slaves in Africa or Santa Domingo or in Haiti.
That's right.
None of that. She was freeing slaves here in America. The Underground Railroad, all of that was Americanism. You understand?
Right.
Get back to the country that your family built. Understand that this is a family heritage. This is our family lineage, and don't lose yourself in the identity crisis. You are the sons and daughters of freedmen, the people who were emancipated through slavery, who got manumission through the American Revolution, the people who worked hard, bought their freedom, the people who did it all. You are their offspring, and you have those great abilities to produce those miracles, because they can't be nothing else but miracles. When they tell you can't read and you can just teach yourself how to read, that is a miracle.
That's right.
And so I don't know how when you take 100 years of progress in 1 year of reconstruction, that is a miracle. You understand? So you are a miraculous people. So don't let somebody take you from all this marvelousness and say you need to be thinking about pyramids and huts and shit in Africa. That ain't what you need to be thinking about. You need to be thinking about civil rights activism, because civil rights is your birthright. Civil rights is your heritage, your lineage. Our people created civil rights. We gave everybody else in this country civil rights.
That's right.
Civil rights, if it wasn't for us, the Irish, the Italians, the English, nobody would have it if it wasn't for our ancestors' work. Get back into that mindset.
I mean,
all that. Go ahead.
Brother Ibrahim. I just want to respond to this question real quick. How do we get them out of the way? And I think the answer is simple. I think what we're doing right now is that pushing process, right? Where I don't know how many of you seen that movie 300, but they situated themselves in such a position that no matter how large the forces were, they couldn't defeat them right in that position. So when the army or the invading force tried to send troops, they would dominate them, and then they would force some of them off the edge of the cliff into the water. And that's what we're doing here right now. We are helping to educate and build a new generation of advocates, starting with us right now. We know what to teach the youth. Yeah, we could talk about some Pan-Africanism, or we could talk about some pyramids. Yeah, black folks built the pyramid, sure, right? We could get into some of that stuff. Shaka Zulu was a great and mighty king. Yes, the Moors civilized Europe and gave us modern algebra and certain things. Yeah, definitely. But right here in America, let me tell you what your ancestors had to go through, and why we are even greater than anybody that ever moved a brick to build a pyramid, right? So that's how we move them out the way, sis. We just keep doing the work, and we keep teaching our lineage. Go ahead, Brother Ibrahim.
How would you say if Pan-Africanism was a successful ideology and it manifested into anything, right? we wouldn't even be here. We wouldn't even be having this conversation. I mean, before Garvey even got here in the 1900s, we come from a people in the 1800s that told Abraham Lincoln, no, we're not expatriating nowhere. We Americans, we built
That's
this
right.
place, right?
right.
So I would just add that to the conversation, right? Before Pan-Africanism, we already established who we was, right? So what we doing ain't nothing new, right? What's old becomes new again. We just pull back and we bring in information that was already, prevalent back then, right? When we first became freedmen. We just got away from our origins, right? This movement is bringing us back to where we need to be.
That's right. That's right.
And
Only
also, I was just going to say this really quickly. I mean, like, and even going to the point with this back to this whole international argument. I mean, like, and and I saw somebody actually said this in the chat, and it was so disheartening when they said, "Oh, here they go with the data," and I was like, but I said, well, data can be manipulated, sweetie, because it don't lie. And the thing about it is that yes, we're going to talk about data. We're going to talk about empirical evidence so that we can actually, if we're going to make an argument, we're going to have to be able to back up our claim.
Right.
Like, our argument is that we are fighting for reparations for the American descendants of slavery, those who come from U.S. chattel slavery, because we can actually correlate our present position to hundreds of years of plunder for free labor, slave labor, and also for lynching, for redlining, and systematic this systematic theft. Like, we can correlate, and all that is actually all that is backed up by data. But even with this whole thing about, like, what about people in Haiti, and what about people in Nigeria, and what about people in the Caribbean, and what about them, and all this other stuff, the whataboutisms. I for promise that anytime that you take a plane anywhere and you have to go through the whole safety protocols that the stewardess go take you through, when they tell you in the case that there is cabin pressure lost, please, there is going to be a mask that falls from the ceiling.
Right.
Put your mask on.
First.
And then you can help first. And then you can help the person next to you.
That's right.
How in the hell are we going to effectively help anybody else in the diaspora when we are still breathless?
Man, we didn't even get to that part. We didn't even get to that part, to be totally honest with you, because it all got thrown off. But I was Kalonji, as you said, Logic, the brother was just lost. Like, you asking why 54 countries aren't leading the reparations. We asking the same thing. Okay,
hello.
So since on that, we're gonna do it. You asking the questions backwards at the end of the day. To understand at the end of the day that each individual descendant of slave, man, woman, and child, that means your 8-month baby, 300 racks. Mama, 300 racks.
Come on.
300 racks.
Come on, talk to him now, dear.
Understanding that each family is 900,000, $1 million strong as a family. Now we can start talking. You can't talk to me about reparations and going some other place, and we don't have no funds. So once you start in those families' hands, guess who else benefits? Eritrean Americans, Nigerian Americans. Now we can start talking about internationalism. We move ourselves up here. And the other thing I think that they don't understand too is that economically, when you're in a certain economic space, you don't deal with the same crime and the same type of injustices.
That's facts. That's right. That's right.
Everybody up in the middle class, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 houses or that type of worse, we ain't gonna have to worry about the same things. And when we do, we're gonna put our money behind the representatives, get their ass out. That's what we're gonna do. That's what our ancestors did not have the opportunity of doing. They built the wealth, but they didn't have this state of America at the point in time where we could stand up like we could. This is a different America, baby. That's why we're doing this now. We're not doing this.
That's right. That's right.
That's right.
That's for Brother Josh.
Okay, we'll be on for another 45 minutes.
Yo, yeah.
Nah, I ain't got that kind of time. My son is still up because I ain't put him to bed yet because I had to get a couple words in, and so I'm just gonna say a couple words and I'm gonna be out. But I just gotta say, man, I commend y'all brothers for going on there and holding it down. Y'all represented as well as could be. You know, y'all brought all the points out in the lot of time that you had, and y'all was just hitting with precision. You know what I'm saying? But I want to just read something for y'all real quick. It's not no literary works. This is actually I'm gonna just read these numbers out. 36.7% Nigerian, Ghanaian, Liberian, Sierra Leonean 19.0%, Senegambian and Guinean 2%, Congolese and Southern East African 5.9%, 5.5% Angolan and Congolese, 6.6% broadly West African, 0.3% broadly Congolese, Southern East Asian, 0.3% broadly Sub-Saharan African. So I just want to tell you, don't tell me about no Pan-Africanism. I mean, as a descendant of freedmen, I'm already I'm living Pan-Africanism in the flesh.
That's right.
That's
You
who we
ain't
are.
lying.
That's who we are. We a mix of
Yep.
all of them tribes. Our DNA says we Pan-Africans.
Yep.
So, but guess what? We in America. We in America. That's where the fight is for America. Okay, all of us probably got a similar breakdown when it comes to different tribes and different, because we an amalgamated group. You know, in our I think it was part 2 of the series we did a couple of weeks ago, a history of violence in America upon the you know, the freedmen and those ancestors that was enslaved. We talked about the breeding industry, how brutal that thing was, man. Look, I'm just gonna tell a quick family story. You know, we've been digging in our ancestry recently as a group, BTP, and I went back to my ancestry chart and I found some things, and I called like the one, you know, everybody's family got that one elder. They got all the answers pretty much when you want to learn about your family. And so I call and listen about my my mother's mother or whatever. My great grandmother, I think that's what it is. So come to find out, you know, she was you know, as you can see, I got some European, 27% up in me. So coming from that side, the person that fathered several of her kids, you know, they said that great grandmama she had some issues, and the story was this white man kept, you know, having his way, and he kept trying to make babies with her. So I think like 3 babies in a row ended up dying due to being smothered. And so I think maybe the 4th one, he was like, this baby better not end up smothered. This is going to be a big problem. So ended up living. But you just think about the trauma, and basically what she was trying to say was this ancestor probably rejected and hated dealing with that so much that she probably made sure that smothering happened. You know what I'm saying? And to think about like that type of trauma and that type of, man, how can you not be in support of justice for your ancestors? Like for those ancestors, think about the generational trauma that is inflicted on her daughter. Thinking about maybe she rejected her, and think about what happened. How does that translate through the generations? And then you try to figure out why the families have problems. Yeah. Like this stuff gets real deep. And so when I hear people speaking in these fantastical terms, when you want to talk about reparations, when you go back and dig in your family story, that stuff it's more than just like having an ideological disagreement. Hey, that's blood boiling. You know what I'm saying? Especially coming from people who, you know, that they probably have some type of that similar issue in their lineage. That stuff is blood boiling, man. So I'm telling y'all, man, y'all don't come to me with no reasons why you trying to fight against reparations if you coming from our tribe. Because I don't have no soft feelings for you. I don't have no soft feelings for you at all.
Straight like
And I don't really use a lot of provocative language and stuff like that. But hey, man, then once you start to get into this stuff, man, you start to hear the stories and see the brutality. You see the inhumanity. You see and you can hear the stories about the suffering, man. And you just imagine like living through those times, man. Look, don't come to me talking about anything against reparations. You about to get? Let me go on mute. I gotta take my son to bed. Peace and love, y'all. I am a reparation.
Appreciate you, fam. Appreciate you.
And I don't understand why that is hard to understand. That was really what was throwing me off the whole entire time, is because we're making like, you can't confuse this unless it's intentional, unless you want to confuse it, unless you want to be confused. We were saying, like, what's wrong with stating that we're talking about specific harms to a specific group by the United States government? Right. And then every last one of us said that we have no problem if others have a justice claim that they want to construct and pose as a grievance to the United States government for whatever they feel the United States government did. If it's rooted in justice, we support it. They kept, especially Dr. Ball, kept intentionally acting like they never heard that. They just would dismiss that altogether and then deny when we asked them. I asked them specifically, do you think the United States government, through your advocacy of political prisoner abolition in America, is that going to release are you demanding that the government release people who are in prison in Africa and all around the world? He said, yeah, at the first time. Then he said, hold up, no, at the second time, because he wasn't even listening. He said, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Then he said, no, that's not what I'm saying. He didn't know what he was saying. He was saying anything.
Strategy, though.
Huh?
Did you catch his strategy, though?
I peeped him.
Once they do 40 years in prison, and what type of coward strategy is it? Once they do 40 years in prison, and they live to be 70 or 80, and now they are incapable of like living a full life, that's when we put pressure on them to get them out.
What kind of sense do that make? And these are the type of people y'all want advocating and doing political action for you? I don't need you. They're going to let you sit in jail for 40 and 50 years and say, then we're going to come get you. Just hold tight for 4 decades.
Meanwhile, these people been fighting since the day they was put in prison. Mufti Abu-Jamal ain't stopped fighting. He had a whole podcast from in prison.
That's
but these people that say they in solidarity with you, they waited till you was 70, 80 and then jumped on the bandwagon.
But you know what?
Like
but you know what, Brother Logic, when you asked that question at first, that he's like, yeah, that's what we trying to do. And then they tried to pivot because they actually realized that when they answered your question correctly, what they're really trying to do, it was going to support your point.
Right. And it sounds stupid. Right. If you get them to say this shit out loud, in front of the like logical thinking, they'd be like, well, hold on now, that don't really make sense now. Hold on. well, goddamn, no, that's not what I'm saying.
Hey, who said when you play this back, you're going to hear that is wrong?
That's what I told him.
Oh, said that. Okay.
I said when you play this back, if you listen to it, you're going to hear yourself saying that. I know you don't get it now, but you will if you go back and listen to this program, because you don't make no sense, bro. It don't make no sense what you're saying. You're asking for governors who they can pardon people that are in state prison right now. Why would I be talking to somebody in
international?
Why would I be talking to somebody in Nigeria about that when I can go straight to the Capitol building?
Right.
Right there. I'm all in Nigeria though.
Okay, and even to support that point, okay, so like they brought up the whole explosion of support for us, like when in the diaspora when it came to the protests during BLM. Okay, cool. Sure, that happened, and I have friends in different parts of African countries that say, yeah, we supported that. I'll say, I bet you did. I saw y'all. Yay. Okay. But here's the thing. Even when that happened, y'all know that they still ain't signed the George Floyd bill in Congress. You know that, right?
Right.
Like they're like you. Even though that the Congress is democratically controlled, I don't even think that they even got a chance to really vote on that bill so that it could even go to the Senate, if I'm not mistaken. And so like all this international support that and you know what, and I don't necessarily, like you all mentioned, like we don't have no problem with allies. We love allies. Allies are great. But when has there ever been such a poor outpouring of an international cry that actually moved the needle when it came to bills in Congress specifically for us?
Right.
Like,
You don't see it.
when did that ever happen? Like,
I don't know.
I mean, like, I for promise, like, okay, you know, I'm not I don't have a doctorate, but I do like to read about history. And when I have read all the different things that I have read concerning the civil rights movement, from what my standpoint was, it was a concerted grassroots effort for people here in America that actually created the drive to push for civil rights actionable bills. And the only time that, and this is just mostly like a strategy of Dr. King, was to use the medium of television to actually show what was happening to Black people in America as how they were treated. Because, you know, like, America itself likes to use propaganda to show how great they are, right? But when you actually saw on the nightly news people getting hosed, people getting dogs sicked on them, people getting beaten by billy clubs, people getting arrested in droves, even children that were fighting for their rights when it came to education. And they were saying that we're in 7th grade, but we have 3rd grade books. How does that look? You know, then that's when it was more so of a move like, we need to do something more about this, because we now have African countries that are coming out of colonialism that's also being courted by Russia so that they won't become communist.
Right. There you go.
You know, so that was more the push of it. But if it wasn't for the groundswell of the civil rights movement, with several different organizations that were on par with, we need to push for change in this country, it would have never happened. So, and I don't understand. And this is another thing. I kept on just like going back to this notion to them when they said, well, you know, we just ain't gonna get it. White supremacy ain't gonna give it to us. You know, we ain't gonna fight for it because white supremacy. And I'm just like, then why are you advocating for any goddamn thing?
Anything? It don't make sense.
Because it's easy.
I mean, like, okay, I guess it's just easy for you. I mean, like, I know there's a whole bunch of people that get on YouTube and talk shit, right? But the thing about it is that you guys are saying that you're actively organizing for political prisoners to be released. You know, you said that you're actively organizing. I mean, Dr. Jared Ball was on our show talking about how he wanted to take 23 trillion in GDP and divvy it up as far as, like, you know, for a class, for class space. And I mean, like, and you know, because I was just sort of like, no. No, you know, and I mean, like, but even if that's your particular thought pattern, that would still take an act of Congress along with the presidency in order for that to occur. And if that is your thought pattern, you're going to get more people involved in that in order for that to be a reality, right? I'm thinking. Right. So again, that takes political advocacy, organization, pushing Congress, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Same thing that we're doing when it comes to this reparations fight. So why would you even try to put any thought pattern behind that and think that's going to occur, in knowing that you got the same argument of why reparations won't occur because of white supremacy?
They're essentially.
I tried to beg that question. I definitely tried to beg that question, and you see how the artful dodger, Dr. Ball, tried to kind of bob and weave. But then we also discussed the very important dynamic as well that we get when we talk about this specific justice claim and specificity in general. They always, when we bring up specificity, they always bring up the counter. Seems like xenophobia.
Right.
specific, you're xenophobic. But if you understand, a lot of these people, Dr. Ball and people in his station of the like, right, are really captured Democrats. But what I asked the Democrats, right, these party line Democrats, these Bernie supporters, these Kamala supporters, the Biden supporters, the Obama supporters, what I say, okay, you such a Democrat, right? You such a staunch Democrat. What happened back when the great senator from Texas, Barbara Jordan, was writing the playbook for immigration reform? Nobody was calling her xenophobic.
That's right.
She wrote the playbook and discussed how immigration should be based on what is good for the national interest. And she said that immigration is a privilege and not a right. And we bestow that privilege on who we deem worthy and see fit. Nobody thought that was right. The Democrats championed her. She became one of the most successful immigration reformists that in modern times. So, or since immigration even been around, really. If you really analyze Barbara Jordan's politics, great senator from Texas, I love her to death. She was one of the most dynamic senators in senatorial history. Go back and research that woman's work, and knowing what the Democrats see when it becomes something, because immigration wasn't working out for the party back then. Right, so that wasn't working for them because you had a lot of European immigration at that particular time, a lot of Polish and a lot of different things like that coming in here. So that wasn't popular. It wasn't helping the Democrats. But see, now immigration's helping the Democrats. You see a whole entire 180 being done. Like, well, no, get out the way and open the floodgates. We have to understand the games that are being played, and we have to understand what plays we need to make, and we cannot always be so quick to moonwalk on our position soon as somebody brings up opposition and says you're xenophobic. We have to be just as shrewd and just as obstinate as the Republicans are. They don't care what type of finger you wave at them. They say this is our position. You can wave your finger all you want, because guess what? Once you have a coalition, once you have a base, the first thing you need in politics, if you're running for anything or advocating for anything, is a winning coalition. The only thing that matters is who's with you. Once you have developed a political base, now you can offer a political consequence, right? All of our demands are left on deaf ears. If you can, Huey P. Newton said it best. He said the problem is with our people is it's not that we don't know how to organize, it's we have not yet understood how to offer up a political consequence. So you don't get nothing from the Democrats, but you still give them all of your votes. That don't make no sense. See, what Martin Luther King understood that as well. He said, we're going to give you an economic and political consequence. Not only Martin Luther King, but you had the brothers and sisters from SNCC, Slick, CORE, all of that when they did the sit-ins in Tennessee, the Freedom Riders when they did what they did and boycotting the bus system, and then when you had the Martin Luther King doing what they did, they understood we're going to disrupt this thing. We're going to offer you a consequence. So until we get back to offering up consequences, we won't get the right type of policy change that we're looking for.
Right.
We all know, we say the quote, politics is respond to applause and not pressure. The pressure comes through the consequence that you can offer. If you say, you know what, Mr. Mayor or superintendent of the school board or city council person or state senator, what we're going to do is remove you from office. Do you understand that? Because everybody in our state that is of our specific group, we all together, we know what we want. And we all vote together. We vote the same. We talk about building voting blocks across the country. Once we can build voting blocks like the Jewish community, like the Italian community, like the Irish community, once we can get a voting block of the Freedmen community, we can put out a political consequence, and now we have the leverage. That's what we're doing. So if it goes from local policies of equity and a Black agenda, if it moves to state, we have the same program and platform. And when we go to the national politics, we have that same type of structure and that same type of mode. Our ancestors understood this in Reconstruction. That's why we were able to produce U.S. senators and take state offices all over the place. We went 60 years and got to Oscar Dupree and got back to that was when we had the next U.S. congressperson since Reconstruction, but we always get lost along the way. We have to stay focused and understand what needs to be done. We have to recognize there's an identity crisis going on.
Yes.
People don't,
Yeah.
everybody wants to be everything. We
Yes.
cannot be everything, people. We have to be what we are, and we are the sons and daughters of freedmen. I like what Derek was saying when he was in the other program about we're a specific breed of human being. The system of slavery, the institution of slavery, did something that had never been done before when they bred all of these different groups together in the way that they did that. That's why we are the first in real complete or specific hybridized group, and that's us doing all the magnificent super natural things that we do. You know, we dominate every single thing because we're a combination of everybody. We have the best of everybody in us. So we need to understand that, get back to working that way with that type of confidence and bravery, because it takes a combination of confidence and bravery to be able to do what you need to do in the face of your enemy. So I know we've been on for a long time, man, and you know, I'm just excited about this discussion because it is telling of the time that we're living in. The fact that we're even having these discussions should get every single one of us excited, because it's only a matter of time now that we're going to actually see that thing come into fruition. The thought is the cause of everything. And after you done talked about it enough, after we done had as many discussions, it's only a matter of time for that thing manifest. So I'm just glad. Maybe it will even happen in our lifetimes. We never know. But it looks like
for real, Kalungi needed to just he needed to just get a link to this joint right here. You just answered like 3 of his questions, bro. For real. He was like, well, what leverage are we gonna use? Bro, just be quiet and listen. Just be quiet and listen, bro.
That's all you got to do. So look, we coming up on 2 hours, family. We had a good, powerful, fulfilling discussion, right? This is a very fulfilling discussion because we're moving certain elements out of the way, whether it's the pretendians or the panties, as they're called. They're getting moved out of the way. They're getting moved. You know, it's not a question of how. It's a question of move, get out the way, get out the way, get out the way, move, get out the way, get out the way. Like it's just, it is what it is. Get out the way. We coming through. We are American bred, like my brother Logic was just so eloquently stating, and has stated in the past. Like we've all said, we are a unique mixture. And it's a little bit of all of Africa and a little bit of European. And hell, it seemed like when I did my DNA test, I was like, Khmer? I'm like, I don't even know how to pronounce that really. Khmer. I'm like, how that get in my blood?
Yeah, Khmer.
You know and we got, I'm like, you see what I'm saying? A little Chinese, a little 0 point something percentage. I'm like, how? But here, we are special and unique people, and the time of idol worship of things that are of no consequence. You know, I was in the chat with Jam, going back and forth with Jam, and she was trying to say she was not responding to me, but she was definitely responding to me. And you know, I was going in and I was talking about this concept of turning Georgia and South Carolina and Florida and Mississippi and Alabama into New Africa. Like what do you? It just goes to show that their Wakanda style politics belong in a Marvel movie theater. It don't belong on any serious stage. This is why they can go on a Jared Ball's platform and do or say rather the things that they say, knowing that they got somebody to back them up. But we different, family. It can't nothing stop us. We got the spirit of the ancestors with us. I feel it. I don't feel no spirit of no Zulu. I like to think I'm a Zulu, a descendant of Shaka Zulu. I like to think that, but the fact of the matter is, I don't know that. But I know that my great grandfather was no joke, out in South Carolina. My mother done told me some stories about him. Wasn't scared of no crackers or nobody else out there. You see what I'm saying? Sold his lumber and his lamb or cow, pig, whatever he was selling, and all them white folk came through town and made sure they hollered at him and they respected him. You see, I come from that, straight like that. I come from a family of warriors whose name is known in New York City to some degree. I don't know about the younger crowd, but the older crowd definitely. Even the correction officers knew some of the family members. You see, that's what I come from. I come from a different class of warriors forged in the crucible of good old Americanism, baby. So, Brother Derek and then Sister Cynthia, take us up out of here.
Go on, Brother Derek. I'll follow you.
Well, I want to say I appreciate y'all, man, tonight, man. I learned a lot from y'all as I've listened to BTP. It's actually broadened the things that I've learned about our history and just in general. I've learned a lot. Yeah, I'm gonna just leave it at that. But I wanted to say something real quick. In regards to Pan-Africanism, one thing I noticed is a trait with a lot of these people is they speak with a lot of ambiguity. They're not specific, which is why we're a problem for them. It's because we are specific, we're concise, and we're precise. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. I appreciate y'all. And yeah, we're gonna do this.
Definitely, brother. Honest. Thanks for coming through, brother.
Appreciate
you. Definitely held it down.
I'm glad I was able to share the platform with you and the panel with you. Hopefully we can link up together in the future and do more, brother. I really, truly appreciate being able to go to bat with you, brother.
Hey, fam, I appreciate you too as well. And that's going to happen. Don't even worry about it.
This is the spirit knit of the ancestors working right now, family. Y'all, some people don't know what's going on the spiritual level. I get goosebumps. I lay there at night. I see the vision. I see certain things happening within our tribe on the level of success and never, ever failure. Never, ever failure. So, Sister Cynthia, take us up out of here.
Well, I just want to thank you, brothers, for doing your work. Brother Derek, Brother Logic, Brother Chad, Brother Ibrahim, y'all held it down. Like, seriously, y'all held it down, and you gave them panties a run for their money, and I appreciated it. And Brother Naheem, thank you for doing this, because I kept on bugging you. And man. I'm like, do the stream. He's like,
she's like, no, she was literally texting it like that. Do the stream. Do the stream.
Like now. Like this needs to happen like right now. Like, no, I usually I just be kind of like just sitting back and just chilling. But I said, nope. This needs afterwards. We need a rebuttal. We need all that. because you even mentioning that they move the goalposts and change the rules and all this other stuff so that they can, because of home court advantage. And yeah, I get all that, but that was a coward move. Yeah, I said that was a coward move, and you know it.
That's right. It
was.
And I said, and listen, I feel y'all, especially when you talk about family, where you come from. I come from two veterans. My father was a veteran. He fought in Korea. My great grandfather was a veteran. He fought in Europe during World War I.
Oh, wow.
And my mama told me the next time that I came in from the block talking about some neighborhood kids beat me up, she was going to beat me twice as hard. And I never lost a fight since.
That's right. That's the culture I'm talking about. That's the culture I'm talking about.
Hell yeah. So, and from that, even from that mentality, I already know that you get nothing without fighting for it.
That's
I think that everything in my life that I actually hold dear and I hold value, it took a fight.
That's right.
My life took a fight. Y'all saw some of them old pictures of what I used to look like. Until those doctors told me that the next time that you come up into this hospital, it'll be worse. You may not even come out. I had to make a decision. I had to fight for my life. I had to fight for my education. I had to fight for just about every damn thing that I value. And I know, and this is something I value. I value our people. I value collective uplift. I value us changing position. And we are in a time where it could actually happen because more and more of us are waking up. More and more of us are actually doing the things that they need to do to get a political education. More and more of us are actually even garnering and learning history, like the real history about how Black history is American history and how we have a very much so stake in what this country has done and where this country is going. And we know that this country will be nothing. It will be nothing. It will be absolutely nothing without the sons and daughters of freedmen.
That's right. That's right.
And until we get that into our particular heads, into our skulls, we're going to still continuously walking around Mount Sinai. Yes, the atheist just said that. Yes, I just said that. So, hey, I know that Bible, y'all. I know that Bible. But regardless, so platforms like this are very much so needed. We need to continuously to have our voices heard. We continuously need to be about elevating and teaching our people, especially when it comes to the justice claim. You do not have to have a PhD in order for you to know your history and to know where you need to be in civics and politics. As Brother Logic says, it's like, government is the game and politics is how you play it. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be a political scientist as far as like in nomenclature in order for you to get that. The majority of the information I got, especially when it came to our identity and our justice claim, came after college, not while I was in it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So like it's time for us to stop being intellectually lazy. And it's time for us to stop with these straw man arguments and continuously being the dog that's constantly chasing our tail. It's about that we need to get to work, and all these other people, like you said, move, get out the way. I'm bucking and I'm pushing them just like that because I'm about to get our justice claim.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm out.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, this is us. Straight like that. Y'all got me turned up.
That's that sound, baby. Come on.
There you go with the Chicago. There you go with the Chicago.
We did the best. That's the greatest.
See, I'll leave that on, so I can't talk my New York talk right now, man. That's another, right? But that's another part of our look. Think about this, right? Before I sign off, you got whole countries in Africa fighting each other right now. You've had intertribal wars for a long. I ain't gonna say we're not without our Bloods and our Crips, but we're not going to necessarily have beef with dudes just because they from Chicago, or they from Detroit, or they're from Los Angeles, or they're from Texas, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? It's just this sustained beef that goes on and on. What was that? The Hutu and the Watu. Come on, that was. Yeah. Damn, that was the man. I don't know if
made up by Europeans. Made up by Europeans.
Yep. But I don't believe people remember that war that they had going on, and that was crazy. I mean, that was absolutely crazy. So, I just say that to say this is all a part of us, family, and we're gonna keep pushing us, and we're gonna do it the way we know how. Some people want to hear a little more professionalism and all of that. We can do that too. We can do that too. But we gotta talk we come talking the language of the people, as the scriptures say. So I'll leave y'all with the lessons of I'm in scripture mode. The motto of the platform, which is don't just fight the power, become the power, and then and only then will you have the power to make a change. With that, I say peace.